Ladies and gentlemen, in our content today, we will discuss an idea about Brazilian GDP growth, which, according to the government and OIPG, had an increase of 3.4% in 2024. Many people are celebrating, but hold on. Before we celebrate, we need to understand some issues. Was Brazilian GDP growth, real growth, or was it just another chicken flight of the Brazilian economy? Because this growth, my friend, if sustained, is something positive. It is a milestone for our economy. But what economists and experts are raising is the following question. Does Brazil have economic ballast? Is there positive ballast to sustain this pace, or are we facing a government-inflated bubble about to burst at any moment? Because the government is pouring billions and billions of reais into the economy to stimulate consumption, but without real investment in productivity. Do you know what that means, my friend? This means that the government is increasingly putting pressure on inflation. Not only inflation, but also debt. Not only from the government, but also from families. And while the government beats its chest and says that the economy is growing, the data shows that in the last quarter of 2024, GDP grew only 0.2%, that is, between us. Brazil is slowing down, my friend, and it is slowing down sharply. So stay with me until the end of our content, because I will bring all the details of all this, and you will understand how all this directly impacts our table. But you already comment below that I want to know your opinion. Are you from the team that has faith, that believes that the Brazilian economy is really growing? Or are you from the team that is seeing this more as an accounting maneuver by the government, right? Comment below and I want to know your opinion on this. Come on, let's dive deep into our content here, my friends. But first I will ask you to leave your like and check your subscription here on our channel. After all, YouTube shows us that approximately 70% of people who follow our videos are not subscribed to our channel. What does that mean? It means that there is a 70% chance that you like our content, like our material, that you are not subscribed here on our channel. Dude, then do this. Check it out, see if you are registered or not. If you don't have it, take the opportunity to subscribe and activate the bell for you to receive notifications. Another thing I'm going to ask you is this: share this content. After all, this type of information that I bring here, you will not see being published there in Jornal Nacional, there on Rede Globo, you can be sure of that. So help me by taking this message to more and more people, sharing it with at least one person. You already help our work here. Alright, well, let's go. Now let's get into the content here. Look at this article that came out here on CNN in all the economy portals in our country. Brazil's economy grows 3.4%. In 2024, according to OIPG people, you can see it there, man, in groups, WhatsApp groups, a lot of people talking. Look, you can see it here. Brazil's economy is grew 3.4%. There are people who are talking about a recession, but how is there a recession if it is growing? Well, GDP grew 3.4%. For many people, it's wonderful. But there's no point in simply looking at GDP growth without understanding what's behind it. What are the foundations of this? And it has sustenance. It's like a house. You can't build a house without support, without foundation, without shoes, without columns. It doesn't make sense. Because you're going to raise this house and it's going to fall down soon. The type of growth we had in 2024, I'm speaking as an economics student, as a graduate student in economics. It is a growth called chicken flight, commonly known as chicken flight, because it is a growth that has no sustenance. It's not long term, it's a spike in growth and it drops then. And to maintain this growth, the government will have to put in more and more money. And here's where the big problem. Because the economic growth we had in our country was not companies investing, it's in machinery, in inventory, in hiring more people, in renting warehouses or building warehouses. He didn't have any of that. The investment that increased the most in 2024, amaze my friend, was exactly the investment of state-owned companies. In other words, it's the government putting money into the economy. This is the type of investment that is not effective. It's an investment that, man, generates a lot of waste. And if there is no productive investment, there is no way to have sustainable growth. The main engine of our country's growth, man, was household consumption. And here is where the main problem lies, because when growth comes only from consumption, it is not accompanied of more production. The consequence of this is something very predictable that we are seeing there. What you think is inflation, What is inflation? More money circulating in the economy without a proportional increase in the supply of goods and services. This causes prices to rise in our country. And look at how this connects to the current reality. In this matter, we see that GDP slows down at the end of 2024 with impacts. Interest and inflation. The last quarter of 2024 has indicated a slowdown with just 0.2% growth. Numerous warning signs are being raised not only by economists and experts, but by the central bank itself, projecting high inflation for 2025 and 2026, while also anticipating increased interest rates in the country. In essence, we are witnessing signs of inflated growth. Government itself. Anyone who lived in the period of hyperinflation here in our country knows very well, understands very well what happens when the government tries to force growth only through consumption. In the short term, it seems to be working. But then the bill arrives. This article, also published on CNN, says that the acceleration of GDP in 2024 put pressure on interest rates and inflation. It targets The Economist on William Wack's WW program there on CNN. 3.4% increase in the Brazilian economy is explained by demand above capacity. And fiscal stimulus is exactly what I'm talking about here. This hyper-stimulation of consumption ends up creating a bubble. This bubble is one that is very close to bursting here in our country. And Lula is doubling down. He continues to bet on stimulating consumption with programs to release credit to people. In other words, whoever had a dirty name renegotiated the debt, released credit. These people already consumed at the beginning of 2024, and now they are in debt. The indebtedness of Brazilian families is breaking records apart from the aid that the government has given in abundance here in our country, apart from OFGTS that the government has just released to people in a simple way. Why did Lula do this? Precisely for people to consume, to artificially heat the economy. And what happens when the government cannot sustain this injection of billions of reais into the economy? It will print more money to heat up the economy even more, generating this snowball, generating a very likely hyperinflation. Again, yes or else he will continue with action, as he said that Lula said that he would take drastic measures, which means drastic measures, price freezing, price fixing. Then, my friend, the condition of our country will worsen even more. It will not be more interesting for companies to produce because it will work for free. Doesn't make sense, does it? And then we will really see the products disappearing from the shelves. In this other article that came out here on the UOL portal, it says that inflation haunts the government, brings down the image. From Lula and the consumer, who pays the bill and has already dropped the ball? For this group, that business is complicated. Anyone who has a minimum of notion understands what is happening. Who will pay this bill at the end of the day is you and me. But the government has the solution to solve this problem. What is the solution? It's putting competent people in the mini. Seriously, the economy. To touch the economy is not to cut unnecessary spending, quite the opposite. The solution is to spend more too, rather than solve the problem, improve the government's image. Look at this article that just came out here in the Gazeta do Povo. Will Lula spend 3.5 billion reais in advertising to improve the image of the government, which is beyond scratch with all this uncontrolled inflation in our country? The culprit of all this is the government itself. And Lula's amazing solution is to spend more on advertising to say, look, guys, everything is fine. We are working. Things will work out. We need to have faith because things will work out in our country. That is, propaganda to clean up the government's image here will suddenly stop in a year or so. Right? That an important day will arrive there in October 2026. Will have a large percentage of our population who will fall for this little advertisement here, my friend. But don't worry, Lula is hanging out with people who understand inflation very well. It's not about solving inflation, it's not about generating inflation, which is Sarney himself. This one understands price freezing, price setting, and imposing taxes on supermarkets. He was exactly the president of Brazil at the time of hyperinflation, one of the worst governments our country has ever had. And look what he said here to Lula. Sarney said that Lula made excellent governments. On the other hand, he said it's better to come out well than old. In other words, get out while you're okay. For him, it's going well. When answering about the possibility of the president running for re-election, he opens quotes for Sarney. Lula is not governing us in a period of bonanza, but rather in a difficult time, not only for Brazil, but in an international way, because it is the same period that Argentina is experiencing, and Argentina is managing to rescue its economy at the same time as the United States, which has a plan here to recover its economy. Soon Brazil which was recovering very well after the pandemic. What's going on now? I think we know very well the kind of people who are touching our country, right? GDP growth is important, yes, but growth without structure, as you just followed here in our content today, it ends up becoming a ticking time bomb that the government is artificially boosting the economy. And when those stimuli run out, which is going to happen, my friend, the slowdown will come with everything. And as you saw, the slowdown has already begun in the fourth quarter of 2024. We will see what the data will reveal for the first quarter of 2025. My friends, I have already provided a lot of information today, and everyone knows our chat doesn't end when the video stops. I've just given a start to our discussion. Let's continue in the comments. Leave your opinion, which is crucial for our conversation. What do you think? It's also essential that you share this content with more people. This information won't be published in Journal Nacional, so do the following. Share it with at least one person you know. If you liked our content here, subscribe here on our channel. Call me Josué Aragão. A big hug, and we'll see you now in our next content.